So I have such conviction over this whole thing, and the NRA's response seems so uh, fake that I feel the need to reach out to people on the interwebs and see if you want to have a place to comment on this. I'm honestly just about disgusted with NRA. The NRA, hey, Sean Callahan, the NRA cannot decide that, and this is what happens when you don't have a base, your principles uh, that you use as a filter. And I've said this many times before. I have a video where I actually did a spreadsheet, and it listed all of the that I don't know if I'm a conservative or a liberal. And I said, you know, it's not that hard. You just make a list of things that you believe in, and you write them all out, and it will show you. You can direct yourself to whether you are a liberal or a conservative, and those are your virtues, those are your principles, those are your personal standards. And I said, I promise you, if you make a list and you will see, you'll find yourself on one side or the other, because his thing, Barrett's thing, and God bless him, I love him, he's my son, but he was, well, you don't have to be conservative. I said, you don't. I said, he said he was, he didn't like the labels. And I said, you don't. Nobody labels you. You label yourself by your actions. There are virtues, there are standards, there are principles that are held by the left and the right. The left and the right are nicknames. You put yourself in the category. Nobody puts you there. You put yourself there based on your beliefs. By the way, the link is in the for the Hangout is in the chat as always. I don't selectively because nobody joins my chats. I put the link out there for anybody to join. Anybody, a liberal or conservative, can join, and it does bother me. Um, my point today is about, and I'll be honest with you, I may be doing many hangouts here just to get my point of view out there, but I'm gonna go screen share, and I'm not sure if the audio will come through. We'll see. But let's see. NRA Fox interview. What I'm looking for is the interview that Wayne LaPierre did, where he claims, the NRA right now can't really decide. There's no reason for the $200 tax stamps. They were designed to price poor people out of the market, and that is a civil rights violation. Yes, I agree. I would be willing to have fire stocks added to the NFA. Now, why would you be willing to have bump fire stocks added to the NFA after you just said that the $200 tax stamp was designed to price poor people out of the market? So, in the current atmosphere, you're going to probably see more than a $200 tax step for the bump stock. It's going to be probably banned. It's not just going to be put. And see, this is the hypocrisy of the irony of the NRA, and this is what led me to create this hangout, was that the NRA wants its cake and eat it too. The NRA basically wants to protect a Republican Congress. Their attempt here is to protect a Republican Congress from having to vote on bump stocks. They're running interference for Congress. So basically what they're saying is that, hey, let's let the ATF review this, knowing that the deep state ATF will ban the bump stocks. And they will say, well, look, all along, what's funny to me is how people are just now saying, oh, we really didn't take a good look at these bump stocks, and we really didn't understand what they were. And even Paul Ryan tried this little trick. We didn't understand that bump stocks made, AR-15s machine guns. They're pretending that they didn't know what they were, so that bump stocks were first created. Why didn't you say before that you thought they should be banned? Why is it now that it's politically expedient that you're saying they should be banned? And so I'm trying to read the comments. Go out on a limb and guess if you did one of those political compass tests, you'd probably be in the libertarian zone. Yeah, I'm not a far right winger, but I do consider myself a conservative, even a conservative libertarian. I mean, I went through this. I've been going through these issues for years, I've studied this, and that's why I made the video that I made years ago about the issues that the left or the right believe in, and I did it basically because Barrett was telling me that he didn't believe that there was a label. And I said, it's not a label. It's where you put yourself based on your own standards. Do you believe in abortion? Do you believe that babies have a right to life? And do you believe in the Second Amendment? Do you believe that you have a right to bear arms? Do you believe the government has the right to create such a bureaucracy that you can't purchase an accessory? Of course, at the time, that was not a question, but I'm adding it now. But this is such a cliche at the moment for politicians. It grosses me out to watch that Wayne LaPierre sit there and say, yeah, we think that these bump stocks really need to be looked at. Really? Where were you when they first came out? Where were you when the bump stocks were first coming in? And see, honestly, I mean, nobody, if you know me, I don't like the bump stocks. I don't like them. I think they're a cancer on the gun the gun industry. But I'm not going to sit here and say they should be banned just because I don't like the bump stocks. I don't like arm braces. I don't like any of those gimmicks. But at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and I will faithfully vote against anybody. And see, that's the point. The NRA is running interference for Congress. They don't want Congress to have to vote on this because if there's a vote on banning bump stocks, how it's going to come out. Every so-called Republican, conservative Republican, except maybe Paul Ryan or somebody like that, will vote for it. That's what we want. We want to see who's going to vote for banning an accessory to a firearm instead of identifying where the problem lies, and that is with evil people. So anyway, the link, if anybody wants to come on and give their opinion, let me go back here and I'll put it out once again, because honestly, I want people to be able to copy. Put it in the chat again. This is something. Yeah, I mean, what's funny is I know a lot of very conservative. I'm looking at RH's comment about national. You see, national reciprocity is a bone, and that was part of my comment last night about, for some reason I feel like I got to do this every night for a while, where I get on here and I vent my frustrations, because national reciprocity is a bone that the NRA is trying to throw us. Why? What does that even have to do with what happened? What does that have to do with bump stocks? It has nothing to do. You could have had everyone in that event with a Glock 19 on their side, and it would have done zero. You're not going to fire back at a building that's 1,000 feet, 500 yards away, whatever it is. Well, thanks, Alice, Alancito, Alancito, 991. Thank you. You're not going to have, So what does national reciprocity have to do? You see, it's a bone they're throwing you, people. The NRA is trying to have their cake and eat it too. You see, they're scared stiff right now. They don't have a clue what to do. You know why they don't know what to do? Because they are not standing on any sort of principle. The principle is no. We do not believe in government banning accessories for firearms. That's the principle, because under no circumstances, because guess what? You give an inch, you take what is it? What would be the phrase? The proverbial mile. They will take it. As a matter of fact, what did Nancy Pelosi say? We need to be looking at these at other things, because yes, if the bump stock first, the binary triggers next, the obviously they've already attacked the suppressor. Next it'll be your favorite optic. Your favorite optic will be on the chopping block, because it will allow somebody to be too efficient with their firearm. And honestly, I'm going to sit here and say right now that what is funny about the bump stocks is I don't think it improved his efficiency one bit. As a matter of fact, the bump stock may have actually saved lives. I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say if he had that, if you look at the Orlando shooter, he killed almost as many people. And this is a gross way to think of this. All I'm trying to say is that the bump stock did not improve the number of people that he killed. Okay, right now the easiest thing for anybody to do is to say, yeah, let's single out the bump stock and let's ban it. But guess what? It didn't improve, right? Because the Orlando shooter killed how many people? 40 something with a semi-automatic rifle. So, and I believe I'm correct on that. I don't believe if I'm wrong, somebody put it in the comments, because I do not believe, and the only reason I mention that is because I've shot many machine guns. I've been to a bunch of machine gun shoots. I have a friend who is the president of our rifle club, and he has probably 15 or 20 different machine guns, and he will bring them out once a month, and we will shoot them. I have shot everything from a 22, 45, 223, 5.56, 7.62 by 51, all those calibers. I have shot different machine guns, and none of those is very efficient. Um, it's very accurate. None of that improves your efficiency targeting at you know at a target, and um, that's something that's kind of gross or inhuman or heartless to talk about. How inefficient a person was at killing with a weapon, but the truth of the matter is that it did not improve his his um, his ability, and it actually shows that thankfully, thank God that a lot of these crazy people are not very proficient or efficient with firearms, and I'm seriously thanking God that they're not, because someone who is proficient could have done a lot more damage. So you see, the bump stock is just a political tool, a politically expedient thing to sacrifice. And the Hearing Protection Act was just an easy target for even. We don't need right now. We don't need the left to target anything, because our establishment Republicans are more than willing to sacrifice the Hearing Protection Act. Also, the NRA now is saying, obviously, we are willing to put up the bump stocks or any other, as if they had never heard of it and they didn't understand it and they didn't know what it was. It's just pathetic. And I'm probably, unless I hear an apology in a direct about face in the policy, then I will not. I will no longer be an NRA member. I will give up and that's giving up something, okay? Because I actually hold about 6 certifications, NRA instructor certifications. That means I'll be giving those up, but I am not going. If the NRA does not about face and stop this politicization of the issue, then I have no sympathy for them. What we need is a grassroots, or either that. I need to go find out how the Second Amendment Foundation, which is an organization that I have always loved and felt like does more for actual gun rights than the NRA. And a lot of this stuff I've kind of kept quiet on until now. Hey, Cam. It's funny because I don't know. In the last few nights, I've just felt led to do something. I don't know, to give my opinion, and I know I'm rambling, but it's just very frustrating for me to see the NRA just roll over and pretend, just like Paul Ryan, that they are not very familiar with bump stocks and didn't understand how they turned a semi-automatic rifle into a machine gun. We just didn't understand this, and we really think the ATF should take a second look at this. And we think we're really on board with that. And you know why? And that is to keep Congress from having to vote. To me, and I know this is probably not true, but the way it seems to me in my small Tennessee town thinking is that that's sort of running interference for Congress, because if the NRA can come out and say, we think that, the ATF should review this, and then the NFA say, yeah, the NFA, I'm sorry, the ATF, got to get my acronyms correct. If the ATF now finds that for some reason before they thought it was just an accessory and for a firearm, but now, oh my God, it's a machine gun, and now that it should be banned, guess what? That allows the bureaucracy to ban the bump stock and allows Congress to not even have to vote on it. You see how that works? And then on the other hand, the NRA can say, well, we're fighting for gun rights because we believe that we should have national reciprocity when 99% of the people in this country don't need a national reciprocity. They are perfectly fine in their state where most of them allow carry, and if not, are in the process of allowing it, and it doesn't affect, it probably affects the one percenters, to use a liberal term. The national reciprocity probably would affect maybe 1% of gun owners. It doesn't affect that many people. It's just a feel good. As a matter of fact, I've heard many people, many conservatives actually speak against it, and of course, I haven't made an educated opinion because I need to search. There, like in my case, if I would just look at the states that have reciprocity with Tennessee, there's a lot of states. I think there's probably 20 states right now. So you see, the national reciprocity thing is a bone. The NRA can say, well, we're protecting gun rights. They can come across as the saviors of the day and have their cake and eat it too, because now they're saying, oh, we would like to see the bump stocks. In effect, they're basically saying, we'd love to see the bump stocks banned, but by God, we better get this national reciprocity because, that would be something we could hang our hats on. Well, that's just baloney. That's just, if people, I'm sure most people are like me and they see through that. Very disgusted, very disappointed that the NRA doesn't understand what the common man. And I'll just go out on a limb. I gotta go tomorrow, and I gotta go to the shoot, IV-88 shoot, and I gotta go ask some people to sign the crickets to raise money for the Green Beret Foundation. But there's a few of them who disagree with me on this issue, and I got to look them in the face and ask them if they'll sign these crickets. And it's just very awkward for me. I started not to even go. I was honestly so disgusted with the whole situation. My spirits have been low. I really don't even feel like going to the shoot, because I just feel like there's so many gun-loving liberals in the gun industry and in the community that the NRA and the gun community on YouTube has just been basically infiltrated by gun-loving liberals, and they don't mind gun control. If you've kept up with polls over the years, you will notice that many people are not against what the politicians want to call common sense gun control. Oh sure, we think common sense gun control, and it usually will deal with like mental health and that kind of thing. So that when you go to the doctor and the doctor can ask you questions and say, have you been feeling lately? Have you been down? Have you been thinking about, are you sad? Do you own guns? Maybe you shouldn't own a gun right now. you know, uh, those types of things. Those are the common sense gun control measures that a lot of liberals are in favor of. And of course, any kind of foothold they can get now, such as the bump stocks or any other accessory, will be, you know, I don't know, just a. Did I see somebody join? Did I see somebody join? Did I go back? ATF sucks. Is that Joe? Is Joe muted? Why are you muted, Joe? Joe joined, but he's muted. I'm trying to unmute you, Joe. So anyway, join us.
Can you hear me?
Oh, now I can. Joe. Hey, Joe. Muted. Why are you muted, Joe? Oh, let me go. I just realized I had the volume turned on. But he's muted. On the YouTube side. So. Unmute you, Joe.
Yeah, can you hear me?
So anyway, yeah. Join us.
Can you hear me?
Have you got your? Are you looking on? Are you watching on YouTube also? If you are, turn the volume off on the YouTube side. I just realized I had the volume turned on YouTube side. Are you getting feedback? Yeah. Join us. Can you hear me? Have you got your? Are you looking on? Are you watching on? If you're listening on the YouTube side, go volume. Mute the volume. Feedback. Yeah. I'm gonna. How's that? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Well, how's it going? Thanks for joining.
Oh, no problem. My volume on my phone is ungodly low.
I do the same thing. I go to the YouTube side to watch the comments, but I'll forget to mute that part, and I'll get like feedback through from the Hangout to the YouTube side. But so, what do you think about all this? I see your thumbnail. ATF sucks. That's funny.
Oh yeah, that's my channel name. Yeah, that's I'm on YouTube. ATF sucks.
Oh, okay, that's cool. How long have you had your channel?
I don't know. Probably since like 2012, maybe.
Oh, that's a good long time.
But I mean, like I've just recently done a few videos, like with Justin's Final Mission, and then I'm working on like a 100 subscriber giveaway. I'm gonna make a couple shirts and whatever, but
that's
cool. About it.
I met Teen Outdoors 9 when I did my 100 subscriber giveaway. I didn't even know who he was, and
I got you.
He entered. It was funny. So you just never know what's going to happen.
Well, I mean, basically, what I think of this is that us as gun owners, we're hugely divided. I don't even know where to begin. I mean, I've been listening to a lot of veterans, and I don't mean to call him out or say anything, but like I was listening to a podcast the other night of John Burke. You know who I'm talking about, correct?
No, who is that?
John Burke. He was a drill instructor in the Army, and he's a social media kind of a. Well, he's a social media guy. He's also a veteran activist and stuff like that. I was listening to a podcast the other night of John Burke. You know who I'm talking about, correct?
No. Okay, so turn down the YouTube side, Musica. Mute the YouTube side. So go ahead, ATF. Sorry.
Oh no, that's fine. And so I'm hearing from like these guys that are veterans, and they're still saying like, oh well, I can't believe Hillary Clinton come out and said about suppressors like that, but I still think they should be regulated. And it's like, dude, you went and took the oath, you signed up, you basically took your life, put it in a blank check form, and signed it over to the government to serve the country and to, have these, freedoms and everything. And then you're still saying, well, I still think they should be regulated, and they shouldn't really be in the hands of civilians. And it's like, well, okay, but once you leave the military, you become a civilian yourself. So why would you
Right.
shoot yourself in the foot?
I think it's real. I know a lot of vets. Okay, I see this. I see them torn between like their own personal thoughts and their standards and what they think they're expected to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course this is not a criticism because my brother was in the army back in the 80s when we were right out of high school, and he came back. I always thought he had gotten kind of confused between what he thought he should believe and what the army wanted him to believe, because and what he had in his own personal belief system.
Yeah.
And
And
so I can understand that totally. You know,
and this isn't me grandstanding on anybody, but this is just like we're so divided in our own community that you have, and I don't want to call them fuds or anything like that, but you have the guys who think the Second Amendment is for duck hunting and deer hunting and grouse hunting, and then you have you know the black rifle guys, and then you have the guys, then you have the tactical guys, and there's like
right.
so many niches in this community, and then whenever you throw something like this in, it is just nothing but an accessory.
And you
And
see, it's more like cliques than niches.
well, I guess, yeah.
Yeah,
Eh,
I have experienced that myself. So
yeah, and so we have this problem, and we can never come down until there's the wolf is howling out the door and saying, okay, well, we'll be more than happy to take your rights away. And that's why I had a couple of friends that I made mad, because I said, well, you guys are still talking about these millionaire football players that at the end of the day do not directly affect your lives, but the people that are sitting in Congress right now or Washington D.C., those are also millionaires, and they're affecting your lives. They're taking your freedoms away, and they're deciding how to spend your tax money. But grandstanding and sunshine patriotism, and it makes them feel good, and everybody's calling Anheuser Busch and everything, and trying to recall their sponsorship at the NFL, but nobody's going to call their state, senators or representatives and say, hey, pull your sponsor of this anti-gun or anti-freedom bill. I'm Pennsylvania resident. The whole time I've been calling my local representatives to say, hey, man, why are you taking my money? But if you look at Pennsylvania, we have the highest taxes on gasoline throughout the country. We have 50 cents on a gallon of taxes. And
hmm,
everybody's worried about other little things that have no direct effect on their lives. But this directly affects your pocketbook. Every week
right.
it gets drained out of your pocket. That's my
So
twist
what do
for
you
what
think
it's worth.
about? I mean, I don't know if you heard what I feel about the NRA directing, redirecting Congress to the ATF. What do you think about that? I mean, as far as the bump stocks, it seems like to me they're just running interference for Congress, so they won't have to vote on it. Does that sound like a
Uh,
legitimate?
well, yeah, you're not wrong. I think this is my opinion. It's not based in. It's just based in my experiences. But I believe that the NRA doesn't want to give. the controlled House and Senate Republican Party a black eye, you know, and
Right.
they're going, well, we'll just let the underlying, you know, tyrannical bureaucracy, the ATF, take another black eye, which I don't like them either. You can tell my channel name, ATF sucks. It's there for a reason. Um, I believe that the ATF should have no business in gun control. Um, but it's like, but I want to see the turncoats. I want to see them. I want to see who's voting on taking incremental steps into oppressing our freedoms. You know, another nail in the coffin of the Second Amendment. And yeah, it's just a turncoat. And I'm a benefactor member of the NRA. I can vote, you know, and believe me,
Right.
they're gonna. I've already called them. I've already called them. This was, you know, I've already called them. I said, what's your deal? Why'd you do that? You know, and of course nobody's gonna give me an answer, but I called over the phone and talked to some girl named Linda, and I said, well, and I addressed my problems with the NRA and Chris Cox and Wayne LaPierre, and I said, hey, don't you turn your backs on us. There's 5 million of us, you know, or more, and we'll take you out and we'll put somebody in there.
It's almost annoying to me sometimes to when I speak for us. Hey, Musica, how's it going? Did you have something you wanted to say? He's got a lot of background noise going on there. I know how that is. Sometimes our dog wants to go crazy when I'm doing a hangout, so
Oh, that's fine.
I can
I don't
understand
care
that.
about that.
But honestly, I've been so, I'm supposed to go. I'm going to the shoot. I'm going to IREC at 88 shoot tomorrow, and I know that a lot of those guys. Okay, please turn down your background music, please, Musica. If you want to be in the hangout, please turn off all your background music and contribute to the conversation. Okay, so I'm kind of at this point. I'm torn because I feel like that a lot of the NRA basically has reached out to a lot of people in the YouTube gun community. Okay,
Hmm.
and they have enlisted their help for different things. So I feel like that some people in the YouTube gun community are sort of expected to toe the party line when it comes to the NRA, and I really want to see them have their own opinions and take whatever stand it is, make sure that it's their personal stance. Um, now, I I don't know if I should bring this up or not because I got to ask Hickok tomorrow. He's supposed to sign the crickets, but he had a post basically that said on Facebook that basically said, you know, the people who are really thinking about this are, will kind of come around or something to that effect. And we can go look at his post if we need to, but it felt to me it was a little condescending, and it was like, okay, so I'm not a thinker. My is my philosophy not my own? Did I not think about it? Do I not think about what I'm going to say? Yes, my principles are based on a long history of conservatism.
Hmm.
You know, I'm 55. I've never been anything but a conservative. And some people will say, well, that's a detriment. you know, but to me, I've never wavered. I've never stepped aside and said, "Well, maybe we should ban those bump stocks." I actually don't like bump stocks, but I'm not going to stand out here and act like an idiot and say I think they should be banned. And I didn't mean to say act like an idiot. If somebody truly thinks they should be banned, then that's their opinion. But I'm saying based on what, you know, because for me that targets the thing, you know. instead of the person, it always excuses the person who pulled the trigger, right? Why is the bullet not more responsible than the bump stock for the killing? Why is the optic or the trigger not more responsible than the bump stock? Why is the bump stock the evil thing now? Nobody can answer that. The reason they can't because it's an easy target for politicians. You know, it's an easy out. You know, the dirty secret is that once you allow liberals to start targeting the bump stock, then they will target other things. You know, the optics, the triggers, the suppressors. Everything about the rifle will soon become illegal, and before you know it, you know you've thrown people a bone by saying, "Oh, well, uh, we're going to make sure this national reciprocity gets pushed through." All along, having the entire AR-15 platform banned, eventually. So
Yeah,
what good is?
not to be cliche or anything, but it's robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Right, right.
And that's how I'm looking at the whole situation. And I told the lady when I called the NRA, I told the lady who assured me that it was going to get up the rank, and that my concerns would be addressed. And I told her that I am not going to act like, an emotional knee jerk reaction and, set the world on fire and resign my membership of the NRA. Just like the people who say about, oh, if you don't like this country, you can just move to Afghanistan. And it's like I look at those people and like, so if your basement has a leak in it, instead of fixing it, and instead of trying to fix it or renovate it, you're just gonna bulldoze the house and move to Paris. It's like, no, we were founded on certain principles and certain ideas, and you're just willing to say, well, if you don't like it, then just move to China. It's like,
Well,
well,
and I think everybody has to make up their own mind as far as renewing your membership with the NRA. I personally think the NRA has gotten so large
uh,
that the only way to get your point across is for a percentage of the members not to renew. And what else? They can always renew later, right?
oh yeah,
So
yeah.
what do
Oh,
you what tool do you have? Because nobody, it's like politicians who you think you can email and it's all these forms. You know that uh, you know you have to basically have a secret code now to reach your because technology has made it so easy to reach your representative that there's a big spam folder that all your emails probably get sent to. you know, as far as trying to reach your representative. So if you really think an email to the NRA is going to do anything, I don't see that happening. I don't see that with all of the spam filters. It's like, okay, all of those complaining, all the whiners go here in the spam folder. you know,
yeah.
and so the only way you can really get across is just like the only way you that people are getting across to the NFL right now is just don't not to watch, you know. And
Oh yeah, and I understand your point, and I
yeah,
do. And I said, but you know, my direct threat was, hey man, we will the members that are voting capable, the life members, the patrons, the benefactors, we will vote people that are more Second Amendment loving, and not just like you said earlier, liberals that just like guns. But yeah, no,
right,
but no, you're right. I mean, if you see a mass, if the NRA sees, 100,000, I'm not going to say maybe that large of a number, but say 100,000 people stop sending money in, you know. And I told her directly. I said, "Well, now I know that whenever you guys send me a donation asking for money," I said, "I'm going to call up Larry Pratt with Gun Owners of America. I'm going to call up I can't think of his name right now, but he's with the Second Amendment Foundation. I'm a life
Yeah.
member of both of those too."
I'm a life member of the Second Amendment Foundation,
Yeah,
and I really appreciate that like the everyday work that the Second Amendment Foundation. It's like with the recent fight they had with DC about the um, how DC had claimed were basically making you what was the term, a general need. They were basically making you prove a need for to be able to have to get your concealed carry, and
yeah, making
that was struck down based on a lawsuit that the Second Amendment Foundation backed. And so when that a court of appeals basically upheld that, now DC is basically saying, well, we're not going to take it to the Supreme Court because we don't want it to be a precedent, set at that level. So basically, it's a victory for the Second Amendment Foundation. Those are the kind of victories that are real, concrete victories. And so I just feel like that. I don't know that the NRA has gotten so large that they need to give back. They need to go to uh, back to listening to the membership and not mandating to the membership what we should believe.
and I 100% agree with you. And again, part of my conversation with the woman at the NRA was I reminded her the Hughes Amendment attachment, for the 86, the 80, the post 86 weapons. I said there is no reason that a sear for basically your AR-15 should be $20,000 or $15,000. There's no way that an archaic piece of equipment such as an MP5, an MP5 is not new technology. That thing should not be $23,000 to $30,000.
Right.
And I said, it has done nothing but hinder us, paying members, us law-abiding people. I said, if you had any machine shop knowledge, one, you could make a sear you could make an auto sear. If you had any knowledge, you could make a suppressor. You could make all this stuff in a high school metal shop. I said, but we don't because of the felony attached to it. And then I said, then you screwed us again. Whenever the Clinton administration, you bent over backwards for them too. And I said, 1994 to 2004, nice long stretch of time where, oh my God, we couldn't even talk about AR-15s, And I said, what? I said, you gave in to them, and again, that's why it lasted so long.
Well, you see, and I would conservatism has gotten such a bad name in the last, I don't know what, 10 to 15 years that I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say 60%, maybe even 70% of gun lovers are in favor of that kind of gun control. That You see what I mean? That conservatism has become a bad thing. That's basically that's where we're headed. That's where the evolution of the gun community, the gun owners, is yielding, is evolving. And I heard, who did I hear say this just yesterday? That there is a law. There's a, what is it called? Not a law. It's basically a law of human behavior. I forgot what it's called. Basically says that a system that does not operate under its conservative values will eventually evolve to a liberal system. In other words, an organization that doesn't, in other words, take the NRA, if it doesn't operate with conservative values every day, then it will eventually turn into a liberal organization. And what is the law called? It's like it's like the law of conservation or something like that. It basically said, and it was some guy who developed it, who developed this philosophy. They said that systems and organizations, any kind of system like that, that doesn't actively, seek to be conservative on a daily basis and actually operate as a conservative organization will eventually allow liberalism to take hold. And so this is what you see with organizations, big, large, huge organizations like the NRA. They eventually become moderate. Now we're in the moderate phase at NRA. You see,
Yeah.
because the NRA now is working with the establishment Republican Congress, which is not conservative, right? So our entire Congress, even though it is um, a majority of Republican, that doesn't mean anything. It means nothing because Congress as a whole is evolving to the left. Is and right now, if you had a big graph, it would show the curve is heading towards moderates on the conservative side, on the Republican side. So I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that's very
And it was
very
like, it
interesting.
wasn't even related to the conversation, the current. It wasn't even really related to current events. It was basically something I read, because I read a lot of crazy philosophy crap, and basic as far as conservatism, and that's it was so crazy how relevant it was to me and how I see the current climate, the political climate. And because I've been trying to understand, since I was raised a conservative, I have been one. Ronald Reagan was the first president that I voted for. Okay, so you can see where my entire adult life has been either sort of conservative, libertarian, or Republican in some cases. Um, but I have always been interested in the evolution of our society from conservatism, and I don't mean strict conservatism. I mean like just traditional values that we thought we were raised on. The evolution of that to the left, and that's where I think we are. I think that's what's happening, and we're right in the middle of it. The people who are alive right now are right at smack dab in the middle of it, and we can change it. But honestly, I fear that's not going to change.
Yeah, well, I don't want to go too far off the loop of the conversation, but I've said plenty of times in my personal life, once an ideology kind of takes root, it's really hard to you can kill the person, but you can't kill the ideology.
But you see, you just said it. You said I don't want to go too far off. You see, that's what happens. We say that and we vote that way sometimes. You see,
Yeah.
that's what happens. That's part of the evolution. People say, well, I don't want to get too far off the path of what we're, but that is the root of it. That's the heart of it.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway.
But I didn't want to take our conversation off the Second Amendment to talk about ideology and stuff. So that's why I said that.
Well, but see, that's the root. That's what I'm talking about. We have gotten away from the ideology that created the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is just as a sentence. What the people who created the Second Amendment and who thought long and hard and who had divine wisdom, who had the deep rooted ideology in their souls that created the Second Amendment, and that's why it's lasted till today, and has even stood the test of the Supreme Court, which is starting to evolve to the left itself.
Yeah.
You see, So that is at the heart of it, and that's why I get on here and do these hangouts sometimes, because I see it. I see it, and that is the root of it. And if we don't identify it as the root, then it's just going to continue to evolve uh, that way. You know, to me, everything else is minutia. The bump stocks are minutia. The national reciprocity is minutia. If we don't get back to our roots of our of what we believe, then we're dead.
And I agree with you 110% on that. There's no once we forget, almost forget where we came from, that old saying, then well, even Thomas Jefferson said, you know, basically, I can't quote him word for word, but you know, it it's theirs if they can keep it, basically.
Yeah.
But he didn't even think it would last 100 years. And to some, you know, to some scholarly people, it really hasn't. You know, to the actual work of the founders, you know, it
And see,
basically.
yeah,
Go
and
ahead. I'm
see,
sorry.
to me, for somebody my age, I have this deep rooted belief that the founding fathers were very intelligent, but they were guided. Okay,
Hmm.
just like the, and I know this is very conservative. Okay, and it'll drive some people away, but the people who wrote the Bible were guided. The people, and I'm not comparing the I'm not comparing that they were intelligent men, but there's no way you can write a document that stands the test of time unless there's something else behind it. You see, and that's how deep rooted my conservatism goes.
Yeah. Well,
Why I
and
get-
you're entitled to it.
What's that?
I said, yeah, and you're entitled to it.
Yeah, yeah. But I'm not going to stand here today and say, you know, I, I'm I'm libertarian enough to allow other people to believe what they believe as far as religion or whatever. I don't mandate that, and that's part of my extreme views on freedom. You
Yeah.
know,
Was it Voltaire or something that, you know, I may disagree wholeheartedly with what you say, but I will fight for the death for you to say it. Was that
right?
Voltaire?
And that's well, I'm not that educated, so but it sounds correct. But the you see, my most of my wisdom comes from my openness um, to ideology. And you see, they ideology has been turned into a dirty word itself. You
Hmm.
see, uh, the left understands it, and the left worship. They use theirs. It's basically a mantra, right? But the right is afraid. They're afraid of ideology, or they're they're trying to move more towards the middle, or the move is to the middle. So there is no roots. There is no mantra. There is no ideology to fight the ideology of the left, and hence we will continue to move to the left. You see. Uh, so anyway, that's what I believe. It's kind of extreme, but anyway,
Well, I
that's
don't
what I,
necessarily think you're extreme. I just think, like I said, I don't think that's extreme at all. And I don't even consider myself, you know, hardcore, hardcore
well,
right.
a lot of people I know I don't either. You know, I think that you see when I was growing up, the things that are now considered, and I kind of joke about it. You see, because the things that we just thought were basic human values are now considered extreme right views, right? The alt right, something that just basic uh, human virtues decency, human decency, when I was growing up, is now considered alt right. You know, and that's the labeling and the name calling and the way that we get pushed away from from the values that we're trying to seek to uphold. You know, but it's a different age. I'm 55. I don't know. You sound like you're in your 20s.
Yeah, I'm 29.
Yeah. So it's a different age, and um, I'm, I've been trying to write this book for like 7 years, and part of it is the concept of the let's call the artisan philosophy, and part of that is the one concept of that philosophy is the last artisan, and that is that the older people who hold these values have to pass them down. They have to mentor younger people and pass the values down, or they're going to die, because that's how our society evolves, right?
Yeah,
That those values don't get passed down, and they don't get nobody grabs onto them and believes them, and so we start to lean, to the left, and that's something that's hard to get across to people, because and they don't see it as relevant. They don't see it as a relevant issue, but we're right in the middle of it right now. The very idea that you would target a thing, a plastic thing, instead of identifying evil as where it lies in a person, in the person,
yeah,
is
and I
just
also believe that the term evil, is very subjective. Me or based on, I think it's based on perception, because what I might consider evil and what you might consider evil is two
anything
different
that takes
things.
human life as evil. That's
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
basic. That's a pretty simple concept for me.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And that would be one concept, that if it takes human life, but the person, or it basically has to be an animated object in order to perform that action, to kill. So like you were saying, it's a piece of plastic. That thing that is inanimate cannot animate itself and
right,
murder a human
right.
or animal.
It to me, it's so blatant, because how do you extrapolate? If you just extrapolate out the whole process of the bump stock, that it's just receiving energy that's granted to it from the actual uh, round, whether it was 556 or whatever it was. That energy was the the bullet. If I was going to place blame on something, it would be the slug itself, right? If I somehow had to place the blame on an inanimate object, it would have to be something that actually caused damage to a human,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
Or the whole system itself. I couldn't just place that on one part of the
and
system.
I was sort of being facetious at the same time as sincere. I said, but I said it jokingly, but it was serious at the same time. I said, well, looks like Feinstein and Pelosi's going to come out and ban physics now.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
at the same, that stock, that inertia driven stock or whatever it does, is no. I've seen YouTube videos of people putting their thumb through their belt loop and it doing the same thing. I,
exactly.
I seen somebody use a rubber band.
And those people gave the person who invented the bump stock the idea, right? They're like, well, heck, I can come up with a product that'll take the place of putting your finger through a belt loop.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So
Yeah,
like I said, oh my God, Dianne Feinstein's going to come out and ban, we're going to have to dig up Isaac Newton and Einstein
belt
and just
loops.
kill him again.
We're gonna ban belt loops.
Yeah, and yeah, ban belt loops. Now we all have to wear yoga pants or sweatpants.
Yoga pants. That would people would love probably to see me wear yoga pants. That would be
uh,
great. I could probably get more views on my channel if I wore yoga pants. But that would be funny. Uh, but
but
yeah,
but
you see
but
that all that is sort of uh, what would the term be? It's all sort of freakish to us to think about. You know, not
yeah,
placing the blame where it lies is freakish to me. You know, even though I hate bump stocks, when I first when I first heard the talk of, I was like, all right, yeah, let's ban the arm brace while we're at it because I hate them too. But then I thought that's dumb. I caught myself. I slapped myself.
yeah, and then
Yeah,
and then everybody, and then it also reminds me of the book by George Orwell, 1984, and it's like the thought police.
yeah.
It's like the thought police are there because uh and I did watch, like, I'm not trying to bring out skeletons or anything, but like I've watched a bunch of videos of these guys taking the shoulder brace and shouldering it, and I did watch you come out and say, hey, why do that whenever you're just don't circumvent it, just go through the process, and
Well, and
and
see, I looked at you see, I looked at the bump stocks and the arm brace as sort of trolls in our. They're sort of trolling the gun industry.
yeah,
You
and
know,
I got
and
you, and a lot,
and
like a lot of people didn't get you, but I understood what you were saying.
And most people didn't. I appreciate that because I took a lot of crap for that. I was told I was supposed to support all accessory. I was like, man, it's like, I don't, I can tell you why I don't like certain tea or certain coffee. I should be able to tell you, I should be able to say I don't like certain gun accessories without, you know,
Well, yeah,
but now I'm saying I don't believe that. Those are the principles, you know, that
yeah.
Yeah,
What
I'm
is
saying for myself. I didn't want one. I didn't like it. But yeah, obviously, I don't believe in a ban. So anyway, it's just
and I would never come out and say, well, you don't need that, because then I sound like what we're talking about. Just like, well, you don't need a bayonet lug because who's running around with a bayonet on their AR-15? Well, it doesn't matter if I need it. If it comes on a rifle, leave it alone. You know,
right.
but we go after bayonet lugs, and we go after, or this has to be a featureless rifle, or this has to, or what's next? Well, you can hunt with that rifle, but like you said, it's an accessory war. But see, we don't believe that you need a 1x6 power scope. You all you need now is a Craftsman airsoft or a BB scope. Or
Right.
when will it ever end?
Yeah, you're gonna. It'll be back to where you can have a tube with that like you're holding up your fist with a little holder.
Yes.
Aim small, shoot small.
Yeah,
You
and
won't be
and
able,
that's
and then
that's where
that
it's
will
going
be
to come
bad.
in.
They will say, "Well, you're changing the perspective. You can't have a little tube that you look through that changes your perspective."
Yeah, exactly. And it will turn into something that, and we'll just be repeating history over and over again.
Yeah.
And that's, but I just don't want to see the day that we have to repeat 1994, or something like that, where it's like we're going to have to live a long 10 years or whatever without an accessory, or without a certain
Oh,
gun, or with a,
it's coming. Unfortunately, it's
and then us as gun owners, or even if we're not gun owners, if we just philosophically love the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Like, I was watching Reed Hendricks of Valor Ridge, and he said it's not called the Bill of Needs, it's called the Bill of Rights.
yeah.
And
I've met Reed. He's a really good guy.
uh,
I love
he's
Reed.
he's astonishingly intelligent, but
Yeah.
but he said that, and I was like, wow, that makes so much sense. And when he said, it's the Bill of, so I know quite a few people that are in my friend group that don't own firearms, but support the people that own firearms. And that should make us gun owners even feel worse about it, because it's like people that don't even, practice in our, they don't go to training, they don't go shooting, they don't go to the range, they don't wear tactical stuff, they don't wear cool hats with gun stuff on it. They believe that you and I should have guns, but you and I are sitting here fighting whether my 410 shotgun is all I need because I'm, a farmer. And why would you ever need an AR-15 that can, take a high capacity clipazine and shoot, 170,000 rounds a minute? you know?
Clipazine. I love Matt. That's funny. I'm looking up your channel right now. I was going to go ahead and subscribe to it so I don't forget.
Oh, I appreciate that.
What's it? Let's see. Where is it? Where?
Just under ATF sucks.
I know, but now I'm getting videos that say ATF sucks. Is it just all one? Let's see. A lot of people think the ATF sucks. Let's see. Where? Oh, here it is. I found it. Has it got the penguins?
Yeah, I got the penguins.
Okay. I'm going to subscribe. There we go. Because I like the way you think. And I think it's important, because I'll be honest with you, the thing that's frustrating or the most disappointing thing to me right now is that a lot of my friends on YouTube are willing to give up the bump stock.
Well,
sacrifice the bump stock.
And I don't want to fall back under another cliche about, we give an inch, they take a mile, but they really do. They really do.
Funny how
and the thing is
we run out of cliches like that, but we have to keep. What do you say? How do you remind somebody without what is another good cliche? If they give them an inch, they'll take a mile.
Because there really isn't. Yeah.
And you're like, please listen. I'm going to say it again, and it's true, but it's a cliche. I just want you to overlook the fact that it's a cliche because it does tend to put people to sleep, and you're like, no, really.
Because then you turn on the talking heads, and then it's like, well, I know, he's going to say it again. If you give them an inch, you're going to take a mile. Or what's another one we hear? Well, it's not the gun, it's the person behind the gun. And it's like, these people keep hearing that, and they're just going to get desensitized to it. That's my goofy way of thinking. It may not be.
And they do. And that's part of the evolution, though. You see, we can't help the roller coaster. It's like I was trying to explain the stock market to my son the other day. I said, well, it's a designed roller coaster because the people who know how to make money know when to buy low and when to sell high. That's a cycle that's a cycle that has to be taken, that has to be observed in order to maintain the stock market. You can't just have an ever-ending climb in the stock market. At some point, you have to have a sell-off for those people who were smart enough to buy at that point in time to make money. It's the same with us and the attitude, towards or the evolution towards the left. Except, I guess, really, it's not a roller coaster. It's more of a long, depressing curve, I guess.
Yeah, it's almost. Even though I believe that history moves in cyclical rotations, I do believe there's a large portion of it that is kind of a linear. Because we're used to seeing timelines. But
the sad part about it is we don't live long enough to see the good times on both ends. We only live. I may live long enough just to see the bottom. To see America turn totally left. That would be totally depressing. I may not live long enough. You might, but I won't live long enough to see it turn. You see, so it's important for those people who are conservative to keep up the good fight. To maybe it can be slowed. But but
Yeah.
it's nature. It's kind of it's like you're almost fighting physics. Because the the light wants to go to the darkness. you know,
Yeah.
and it's sort of a natural progression of things. Entropy. You know, and it's sad. You almost have to have a major happening. And unfortunately, when we have major happenings, they seem to be negative instead of positive.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then it's almost it's this bittersweet type of thing, because I've heard different politicians and different talking heads say that, don't let any tragedy, you know, go unnoticed, or,
Yeah,
in that sort of effect. But, and for so
never
many
let
years,
crisis go to waste. Is what
or,
Ron
yeah,
Emanuel
yeah,
said.
Rahm Emanuel, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Never let a crisis go to waste. And oh boy, they practice what they preach,
Here's
because,
the
I mean,
thing too, because Nancy Pelosi we had almost developed a Congress that came to the middle. Like Republicans couldn't, like conservatives couldn't get anything done because the Republicans were moderate, and liberals couldn't get anything done because their Democrats were moderate. And so now people are calling for Nancy Pelosi's head because she's not liberal enough. I don't know if you've read the articles about her, but there's some younger liberal uh, liberals saying that Nancy Pelosi needs to step down. And of course, then Nancy Pelosi comes out and says, "Well, maybe we should go after." What'd she say? I need to go look at Nancy Pelosi's response. You know what I mean? It's a fight to see um, how liberal she can be.
yeah, yeah. I don't.
and
I,
and it'll be the establishment Republicans, uh, how their effort to see how moderate they can become, because of the tragedy.
oh, I'm looking at the screen right now. I see where you're going.
Team call to yeah. Here we go. Nancy Pelosi should prepare to resign. Senior House Democrat says. You see, she's saying we want new blood. Who was it? Top-ranking House Democrat says Thursday that House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi and other top Democrats should step down to make way for new leaders in Congress. Representative Linda Sanchez, Democrat, California. Wouldn't you know it? See, she's not being. And then I read another article, and I drive my family crazy because this is all I ever read. But there was another article about Nancy saying, okay, we need to look at other, not just bump stocks, you know, what was it? Yeah, Select Committee on Gun Violence. Obviously, I saw something else that was related, but anyway, I don't want to bore a bunch of people with a lot of. There's Biker Bob. Hey, Bob, you should join us, dude.
Speaking of that, I don't. Speaking of that, talking about this agenda and freedom and stuff like that. There's a guy right there, Biker Bob from Canada, and I've because whenever he used to be on the chats before, back in the day, and talking about, he was basically going, you guys have all this stuff, you have all this freedom, and you guys just roll over. Meanwhile, it's like, he can correct me if I'm wrong, but like, he has to leave his like handgun ammunition at the range or something like that, and he can. Now there's other things that he can have that we can't. Like, I think he can have like what we consider short barreled rifles and shotguns and stuff. But I mean, for that right there, it's sad whenever you have a non-U.S. resident, you know, that knows more about our country than U.S. residents.
Yeah, or someone who seems to be more conservative than most of the gun owners in America. That's
Yes.
when I see these people like Bob and other people, that's what leads me, that's what makes me start wondering, my mind wondering to how many gun owners are there out there that are just like Democrats willing to, who, and you see these polls, like I said before, about how they're willing to go along with certain gun control, you know.
Yeah. Oh, right there. He says, "Can only take my handgun to the range." There. I mean, there you go. And we take all that stuff for granted, and then they, and then we're letting these millionaires that are, by the way, that are sponsored by big corporations too, and they take our tax money at will, by gun barrel, mind you, and then they spend it on things that is not in our best interest, and we go around the world destroying, our enemies or whatever the opinion is on that. But and then we just roll over.
Yeah.
It's frustrating. I get frustrated all the time, and I don't know. I feel like I'm the and I unfortunately I'm classed into the millennials, I guess, and I feel like I'm the
Well,
millennial with
you know what?
standing in the
You're a rare millennial because on many occasions I have been corrected by Barrett because I'll say, "All those darn millennials," and he'll say, "Well, Dad, I'm on the tail end of the millennials." I said, "Yeah, but you had a good dad to teach you properly."
yeah yeah
you know,
exactly
I see the struggle every day with the attitude of millennial because he and I, we may have a video, but there's 100 other discussions where I'm trying to basically, in a fatherly way, to convince him of conservative values because he doesn't, and starting a long time ago when he was around 16, 17 years old, he didn't understand the concept of straddling the fence. The difference between a fence straddler and someone who's just an objective person. And
hmm
it took me a long time to make him realize the difference between objectivity and sitting on the fence. You know, and and another discussion for another day. But he, you know, I I have this long standing theory that he knows about that has to do with the onslaught of technology. And God, thank you for technology. But on the other hand, you have um, the negative side of the internet is just, I'm at 50-50 right now with my opinion as to the what the internet has done for mankind. you know, it's it's right there.
well, it's another one. It's another one that can be used. It's a double-edged sword. It can be
Yeah.
used as great good, and then it can be used for great evil. And and see, now this leads me to almost another subject of within the same subject is we've we have so many names and labels for everything, is that I'm almost confused on what we could even call ourselves anymore. Because like what what you could call, classic libertarian or classic liberal doesn't mean what liberal means now, or when you say Republican doesn't mean what it used to mean.
Well, you just
Like,
have to remember that Republican and Democrat are parties,
yeah, exactly. And that's what I was
and
getting
within
at.
those parties there are liberals and conservatives.
Yeah.
Even within even inside the Democrat Party, there are moderates and liberals and conservative Democrats. Like the generation before mine, you had many Democrats who were conservative Democrats. That the only thing that they were Democrat was their social net, that safety net for
hmm
social issues. But mostly they were like physically they were conservative, or they typically were, had, had a form of religion. They weren't atheists. You know what I mean? A
Yeah.
lot of the old time Democrats were really leaned more to the right. And then you had the same thing inside the Republican Party, where you had Republicans lean to the left who were considered more libertarian than. But you're right. Classic liberalism is dead. The idea that freedom of thought, freedom of expression, you see, um, those were all part of the original liberal. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
The hippie was about freedom and freedom of expression, freedom of thought. That's not where it is. That's not where we are now. You know,
No. And
unfortunately.
and it's like we've become, and now you can't, you can't even have an opinion on something without somebody trying to throw you into a box,
But
you know.
see, this. You know what you sound. And I hate to say this, and I love my son, but that's exactly the discussion that we started off with
Uh-huh.
20 years ago.
Gotcha.
You don't. You put yourself there based on your own belief system.
Yeah.
You don't. Nobody's putting you in a box. You put yourself there.
Yeah.
Because
And I get
and
what
that's
you're
a good
saying.
thing. That that's a good thing. It's not a negative thing. But you just have to. And I'm not saying you. I'm
Mhm.
saying as I'm talking to my son, because I wouldn't dare. I feel like as a father, I have a certain responsibility to my sons, but I wouldn't dare tell somebody else. You need to do this or you need to do that. Um, but you need to look deep inside and see what your belief system is, and you need to evaluate it. And he was actually the one that inspired me to do the video where I have probably 50 items, and it basically shows where all of the different ideologies land. Liberalism, moderate. It answer all the questions, and it shows you where you land. And it's not a mean thing. It just that's how you know what I mean. Through your belief system, people think it happens in reverse, like we came up with labels and then we apply them to people.
Hmm.
But you get apply the label based on your belief system. It's like saying cat or dog. It's just an easy way. It's just a simple way to identify people. And most people don't like being identified, but you are what you are. You believe what you believe.
Oh,
You
yeah,
don't
absolutely.
change it based on what somebody else thinks, right?
Yeah, and well, I mean, yeah, you
You
and
either do or don't believe in abortion. You either do or do not believe in God. You either do or do not believe that the government should be limited. You do or do not believe. There's a whole list of things, and all those virtues or values fall inside an ideology. You know,
yeah,
do you believe in pro-choice or not? Do you believe, you know what I mean? All those things, they fall on one ideology or another. And so
yeah,
you put yourself there. Nobody puts you there. You put if you're not a weasel, you put yourself there. And that's what I told Bear. I said, don't be afraid to believe in something. Don't that that's called the worst thing. I'd rather deal with this with the hardcore liberal every day that believes he's a hardcore liberal. I hate fence straddlers. I
yeah,
can't stand people who sit on the fence. You know, I actually have many liberal friends and I respect them because they're not weasels. They're not filled with this. Although although part of the left, all part of their ideology is to deceive people. I don't. I would rather at least them admit, you know, that that's part of their ideology than to than to lie about it. I can't stand somebody who lie. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
I
something is
love an honest
dishonesty.
liberal. I love an honest liberal. I do. I can't deny it. So I can't stand somebody who lies to me. You know. So
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah. Well, I was gonna say, oh, I guess for me, and I mean, whatever. Uh, I do believe that whatever you want to do in your see, and now I want to say that I'm libertarian, you know, because if you want to do whatever you want to do in your bedroom, you know,
right, right.
as long as it's not something that's really like a, I guess what somebody would consider a cardinal sin, as long as you're not doing something to minors or rape or taking an infringement upon somebody's freedoms or rights. But if you're a man and you are in love with another man, I don't care. If you're a woman and you're in love with another woman, I don't care. Um, I don't think that makes me a fence sitter. I so and then
No, I guess what I meant by fence straddler is someone who will not declare what they believe.
oh okay
You see
okay
what I mean?
oh I
Or
got you.
they change based on they change based on what's expedient. You see,
Oh yeah
it's
yeah
just
yeah.
like right now, like Paul Ryan knew about bump stocks. He knew
Mm-hmm.
what they were, but he came out just yesterday and said, "I'm just now understanding what a bump stock is, and maybe we need to look at these things." It's such a lie, you
Oh
know?
that's why I called him a shill. He's an absolute
Yeah.
turncoat.
What the hell? I mean, like you didn't know what a bump stock. My sister knows what a bump stock is.
Yeah,
And so that's what I'm talking about. I'm not.
gotcha.
I don't mean. Um, I mean basically people who will deceive, who lie and deceive, and you know because if someone says I am a hardcore liberal, then you know where they stand. You know, but if someone tells you, well, I don't like you putting a label on me, and then all of their actions show you who they are, then they're just lying.
Oh yeah,
They're just
yeah.
trying to deceive you.
I
You know,
got you.
that's
Yeah,
what
no,
I'm talking about.
yeah, and I can
Yeah.
see that. I guess I was coming from the point of view was I don't know. It was like a week or so ago. I went and said that I guess that I'm considered more left nowadays than I would be considered anything else because I don't I don't have a problem with people identifying as homosexual, and I don't have a problem. That's
That's
up
not
to you.
left necessarily, though. That's just that's an extreme view on freedom. That's the left. You see, the left will use someone who identifies. You see, that's the difference between
Yeah,
you and a liberal. They will create a divide. They will create a special. They will create a group of people called transgendered or gay or whatever, and then they will try to give those people special rights. And you see, that's a whole other thing. It doesn't have to do necessarily with. It has more to do with the political system than it does the individual belief system. I
yeah,
believe exactly the way you do. I don't, as long as you're not hurting anyone or especially a child or, I don't care what anybody does. I've probably built more homes for gay people than I have straight people. And I didn't even know it sometimes until most of the way through the process because I don't concern myself with people's orientation. You
yeah.
know,
So then I had people jump all over me, going like, "Oh, you no, oh, so then you're one of them brain damaged liberals," and I was like, "No, how does that? I'm not brain damaged. I stick up for your rights. If I don't, so then that's what I meant by man. It's like as soon as they put you in a box, you become a target now because it's like now it's like you're afraid to say it's like you're afraid to make an opinion or a belief because then somebody's going to be like, especially if it quote unquote if my perception of if it's left leaning, then it's like, oh, well, you're one of them liberals, so then now you're mentally damaged. And I was like, oh, okay, well, if you think I'm a liberal and not a libertarian, well, that's on you.
That's just a little, there's a little ignorance being floated around there, as far as the difference between the ideology of a system and the belief of an individual. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's a big difference between even a person on the left who thinks they honestly think that, you know what I mean? If someone honestly believes and has personal held beliefs, those you can't do anything about that. What you can do something about is a political system that's trying to affect an entire nation. You see,
yeah.
and I make a distinction between those two. Um, I'll fight the political party all day long. I won't bother the individual. You see,
Yeah. I,
and I do it through voting because I believe in our democratic, our republic, our constitutional republic. I believe is one of the greatest that has ever been created. So that's how I take care of those things. I don't go after individuals. I may say I don't like them, but I don't go after them. You
no,
know.
absolutely. Well, the only individuals that I will go after are the politicians that are, and they're supposed to be our elected representatives.
And
Those,
that's what I mean. The political, if they claim, if they become part of that political system, then they're fair game.
yeah,
And that's hard sometimes to make the distinction, or you have to remind people the difference, between your neighbor who's gay and the politician who's gay, trying to create a special condition for one group of people. That's
yeah,
there's big difference, especially when you start talking about how you're going to tax me for one reason or another. Like and take money from me on demand,
yeah,
to
yeah,
distribute it to other people for a reason. That's a political system, not a personal held belief.
yeah. And on that note, the whole taxation without representation, it's like we went to war for that. So,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and
yeah.
like I was, and I'm whatever. I'm from Pennsylvania, and we're a Commonwealth or a communist wealth, whatever you want to
Well,
call
I
it.
like
But
Pennsylvania. I mean, well, I have good friends in Pennsylvania. Steve McNeil, Keystone Port Sporting Arms, Jeff, Cutlery Lover.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Good
okay.
people. Good people up
Well, I
there.
mean, I try to think of, but what basically what I'm getting at, and I get so angry. We're $1 billion in debt. The state of Pennsylvania or Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, or whatever you want to call it, we're $1 billion in debt. But yet, our infrastructure is rotting away. But yet we can still take money and put it in our, what we call our defense fund. And it goes back again to a famous quote from Franklin, and I'm paraphrasing it, but a country who sacrifices their freedom for security shall have neither.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, we're constantly running around destroying our perceived enemies, and we're letting our home rot to the ground. There's potholes that can't be fixed. They can be fixed, but they're not being fixed. But yet, we're running around, $100 million airplanes to bomb the crap out of brown people in foreign
Yeah.
countries. And I'm not anti-military, and don't anybody in this chat take me out of context, because I'm not. I am for the individual troop, but I am not for our administration. And then that will be taken out of context again. Well, you were anti-Trump, you must be one of them. No, no, no. I'm a limited government type of guy.
Well, he was kind of handed the wars. I mean, he didn't create those.
No, no, no. I know. I'm just saying, but I don't want anybody
Yeah,
taking me out of context.
yeah, yeah.
That our military was meant for our home defense. And we're on a wartime economy. and we're seeing we're paying for it now. You and I, you know, the end of the day, taxpayer is paying for all this, and we're being crushed under our own weight of debt. And the cows are coming home,
Yeah. To
but
me, it kind of
good.
goes back to honesty, and transparency.
Yeah,
You know, if they would just come to us and say, "Look, we made a mistake. We're kind of stuck in this war. We need to figure out an exit strategy, but we can't necessarily publicize it because that would go against our, military standards. we, we can't say we're withdrawing on this day, certain day, because of tactics. But we're really seeking to, and that's what if I was Trump, that's what I would be doing. I would be
yeah,
saying, it's time to end this, but we're trying to develop an exit strategy, and this is what we're working on. And maybe by the end of my term, I can get. If you give me 2 terms, I could probably get us out of Afghanistan.
yeah,
But yeah,
that's my deal. I want things to be better at home for us. I guess you can call me nationalistic. And I'm not anti-immigrant. Don't anybody take me out of context. But I want, like, we have people here that we need to take care of, but we're too busy hunting monsters to destroy.
the only
And
the only reason I give them a break is I have to think that, and this is going to sound really like establishment thinking,
uh-huh.
but I have to think that in some way that there has to be something positive about what we're doing. I would like to think that anyway. That those, especially those people who are affecting, because I actually know I know one private contractor and a couple of military guys who came back from Afghanistan who said, we were in neighborhoods, we were talking to the villagers, and we were, they loved us, they loved seeing us there, they felt good about us being there, they felt safer. I mean, when you hear those stories, it's hard to. But I'm torn too. I'd love to see our guys come home from Afghanistan, but something tells me that there is some percentage of good that we're doing. I want to think that anyway after
Yeah,
talking.
and I would love to think that too. I just that quote that just lingers around about Eisenhower, reminding us of a military industrial complex.
Yeah,
It just like, and it rings true more and more. It seems like we've been in a constant state of war, basically since I was in middle school. It's just
but
like,
it's funny because that in itself is sort of a okay. Here we go. I'm not going to call it an internet myth, but this kind of goes back to my thing about the internet and how itself has created an atmosphere of its own ideology almost,
yeah,
because this military industrial complex thing, I mean, yeah, it takes a complex to have a military. You know what I mean?
mhm.
It takes a certain amount of wealth to produce to keep our country safe, and it takes a certain amount of investment of our military to keep us the dominant. And see, this is where I start to poke myself with a needle. I want to be a libertarian, but on the other hand, I gotta say, after all the people that I've talked to personally and are friends with, that we do good things around the world.
Oh yeah,
But
and I'm 100% on the world with you there. We do a lot of peacekeeping. We do a lot of intervention. I just, like I said, but where my libertarian views come in my constitutional upbringing is like, man, we need small government, limited government, checks and balances, and military is only meant for national defense.
Right.
You know,
Well,
and that's and that's where I'm torn. You know what I mean? Because then I look around and our infrastructure's rotting away. You know, and stuff that could be allocated back to making a great, making our country great again. Not to steal that from,
no, and see, I think you can have nationalism at the same time be a good influence in the world. In other words, it, we're kind of where we are right now. Who's going to defend Japan and other nations if Rocket Boy does decide to launch a real weapon of mass destruction? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Somebody we I mean, these are the realities that we are faced with now. That we
yeah,
have rogue nations like Iran and North Korea who have stated they want to do, they want, freedom to come to an end because they would love nothing more than a theocracy to exist,
yeah, and,
worldwide. That's a stated goal. It's not like a myth,
yeah,
you know.
and I get that, and I just, like I said, I got the founders in my head going, commerce with all, entanglements with none.
Yeah.
It's not our job. It's not our job to be your bodyguard. It's not our job to be the world police officer. And that's where the founders are ringing in my head. But yet, the humanitarian thing to do is, yeah, protect the small and the weak and the innocent, and be that all that mantra of almost like the coming into Ellis Island, we'll take you're tired, you're weak, you're weary, you're sick, you're poor. I get it. It's the American experience, and it's that laissez-faire, leave me alone, and rags to riches type of thing. And I get it. I just, like I said, we're,
No,
we're
I'm saying you can have. I'm saying that nationalism is not necessarily isolationism. I
yeah,
think one of my favorite people, well,
oh
actually starting back with Ross Perot, even, you know,
yeah,
I'm old enough to know, but they were so, they gave that air of isolationism off so much that they turned people. I think a lot of people realize that somebody in the world has to, you know, take up for the little guy, and we've kind of assumed that role. But I'm torn. I'm the same way. I don't. I'm. I think we can limit our government and still and have a great sense of nationalism and still not be isolationist. I think there's a dynamic that we can achieve. You know, I think it's. I think we can do all three. I don't think we have to make a
and
choice.
and to follow your point up, to follow that point up, is I am drastically against building a wall. Drastically against it. It is wasting our taxpayer. It's wasting our tax dollars to put up a wall. And then I'll hear from the people that are my naysayers that, oh well, the Vatican has walls, and this has walls, and that has walls, and blah blah blah. And it's just like, but if you shut the entitlements off, to come here and have have all these entitlements, if you take those away, then there's not going to be
Here's my thing. I think it would take aliens to come down and help us build an effective wall.
yeah,
I'm a construction guy, and I know that if you don't build the wall correctly, that it's not going to work, and so it's going to be maybe a huge waste of money. And
that's what it
so,
is.
yeah, and so I'm not so. Even though I love seeing things built, the first time I thought, oh, great wall. What would be cool? I could actually submit a design of what so you kind of catch yourself going, well, wait a minute, that's maybe a magnificent wall, but unless it's, 2,000 feet deep in the ground and it's 2,000 feet tall and made of 10-foot thick concrete, it's not going to do any good, you know. and then you say, oh, that's going to cost more than our national gross production, gross product, for 100 years. So, yeah, it's funny.
Yeah. So that's where I'm torn, and it all comes back to, at the end of the day, I know we started talking about bump fire, and we've come all the way off and talking about national debt and nationalism and
But
stuff.
see, that's where the rubber meets the road, though. See,
And,
and see, that's what Trump. That's how Trump got elected. He he, and this is how I won $10 off Yankee Marshall 10 months before the election, where I made the bet, was because I knew that just through Trump's rhetoric, he has cut the number of people coming across the non wall by a certain percentage just through talking about it. He probably will never build the wall. He didn't have to, but he did save lives by at least talking about, having a conversation about it. And I know that's weak. That sounds weak, but I knew he would fight. Um, he would be a fighter. That's what I wanted to see. You know, um, but I did think he was going to build a wall, but I don't think it's going to happen.
yeah, well, and like,
I think we all have weaknesses, and one of my weaknesses is I love seeing big things built. You know, and I think he played to that very well. You know.
yeah, almost that old saying, build it and they will come. That.
Build it and they won't come.
Or yeah, build it and they won't come. Yeah, but yeah, and that's I don't know. That's just my 2 cents, and at the end of the day, my 2 cents aren't worth anything when it comes to 324 million
Well, I
Americans.
think they are actually. I think, and this is why, if you look at my channel, and the reason I'm not as successful as other people is that I have 100 hangouts where I have put my my 2 cents out into the ether, and I believe you have to,
Mm-hmm.
because if you don't, the internet will become one big cesspool.
Yeah.
You have,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I honestly believe that. Um, you know, I have this weird theology or philosophy or thoughts on physics that you have to counter the negativity, that you have to counter the ideology that you don't want to see, and you got to put it out there.
Almost the yin and yang or whatever.
Yeah,
Almost like gotcha.
I loved it. I loved, of course, part of my thing is always I've been trying to get Alex, who's this gifted kid, one of my sons,
Mm-hmm.
who's I think, and I finally talked him into taking physics his senior year, and he's like making straight A's as usual. And I said, see, he'll make a great physicist.
Yeah.
But one of the things I remember back, when did this become a thing? The entanglement theory, you know. Um, I brought that up to him, and I said, because I'm always sending him references to read and things, and I said, see this here, this entanglement theory, where two particles can become entangled. They could be light years away from each other. I see that as I use that as the basis for why I think we have to keep putting, our thoughts out into this ether, because that's just a weird thing, I believe. And that's what I believe.
Yeah, and yeah, that's a great starting point. You've blown my mind away a little bit. I'm not that bright when it comes to physics and.
Well, you've heard of the entanglement theory, right? Or
Oh,
the
I've heard of the entanglement theory. I've heard of the string theory. I've heard of those. It was just that
Basically, when two particles can become sort of entangled, and that even if they are at some infinite point away from each other, you can affect the other. If you affect one of them, the other one becomes affected. And so that's sort of one of the crazy recent theories of physics, right? And I use that because my wife is. I'm always joking with my wife when we run out of work. I don't do marketing. I just say, okay, I'm putting it out there. I think about it. I'm putting it out into the ether that I need a project. I need a house to build. And sure enough, like 2 or 3 weeks later, she's always like, hey, how does that work? How do you do that? Like you have to project what you want. You have to put it out there. And it's the same with your philosophy, your ideology, you know, and the more we do that, the more we can affect other people and, you know, the things that we want in our life. So it's weird, but it works, I think. And if you study a lot of the different religions like the Hinduism and, that kind of stuff, they have that's a huge centric part of their beliefs, you know, that we're all connected in some way. So,
Yes, that's very interesting.
yeah. So even though I'm trying to create a divide between me and liberals, somehow we're still connected as humans. So, well,
Well,
speaking of that, I'm gonna have to get go. I gotta go wash some clothes and pack up to go to the shoot tomorrow. I gotta get up
gotcha.
real early, drive 3 hours down there. So,
Well, I would sign the cricket. I would sign it with ATF socks, and that would be the greatest signature on there because the ATF does suck. but
uh,
but yeah, I'm not gonna make it to Georgia to see Eric and them. But since you're a lover of philosophy, I'm gonna leave you with this. Whoever battles with monsters had better see that it does not turn him into a monster. And if you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss will gaze back into you. Friedrich Nietzsche.
that's cool. Who wrote that?
Friedrich Nietzsche.
That's cool.
So that has a deep precedence of what we're talking about tonight. So that
Hmm.
reminded me of the work of Nietzsche. I like following his philosophy. So, but I appreciate
Kudos,
you having
man.
me on, man.
That was a nice note to end on. I appreciate that. Yeah, we'll
So
do it again sometime. I'll probably get another wild hair soon and get back on here.
awesome. Well, it was a great night. So thank you. Be safe and enjoy your shoot tomorrow.
Thank you. Thanks for
All right.
coming on.
No
Thanks
problem.
everybody.
Bye.